It's a beautiful Sunday, and unfortunately yesterday, yeah, I came up and I was fine and everything, but well, my addiction required more energy, more of my attention than maybe was reasonable, and I basically spent the whole day playing it. It was also very hard for me to get up and down the stairs, in my defense there, but physically my legs were not in good shape after dancing, but they're fine now. But then even today, I'm kind of low on sleep, just getting these little partial things. But I was perfectly fine and had gotten enough kind of rest time. I'm not really sleeping. I'm just sort of half napping to come up here. But instead, I end up, watching Saturday Night Live sketches from a couple weeks ago, actually, because I fell behind. But, just it's so easy for me to just sit in front of the computer and, I don't know. Anyway. Starting the card draw phase, I want to catch some of these. Revolts in the Low Countries. Place a diverse face. By the way, this doesn't have to get taken and then it won't fire off. Just the bottom part will. Place a diverse face token in each of the Netherlands and Flanders and Wallonia. And this is kind of interesting. Well, that all hits the Spanish because the English lost their war. Unless they are already Protestant. Add unrest to all towns, etc. on Dutch core provinces, unless the owner's capital is located within one of the owner's areas above. And that you might be one of the Dutch powers. And add 3 military in Flanders and Wallonia if there's at least one unrest there. Well, that's almost certain to go. Somebody will pick it just to, for the money on it or whatever, because it came up early. Act of supremacy, as the Church of England, England adopts Protestantism. England gains a prestige, 3 admin, and money equal to their twice their base tax. But they lose 2 stability and have to discard 3 cubes from Catholic areas. Or accept Rome's supremacy, they lose 2 prestige, but gain a stability, a cardinal, and 2 cubes in central Italy, and a diplomacy, and that comes tied with Henry VIII, who is okay, good military leader. He did lead armies against Francis early on, but I don't know. I don't know if he should rate that high a leader, but whatever. Comet sided. The end is nigh. All players lose a stability. You gain 2 admin and may discard up to 3 milestones and or unpicked non-basic ideas. And draw random replacements of the matching type. It's kind of weird. So I'm guessing. So discard is a weird term here, right? There aren't very many unpicked basic ideas. There's just the Inquisition. That could get thrown away again. But otherwise, all these ideas are just stuck out there. But and this is what's weird, is that I think there are ideas. The ideas here. Yeah, so I don't remember how the setup went. I'll have to look this up, but I have this feeling that not all the ideas were available to begin with. Although I don't see anything that seems to limit them, so I'm not sure. Or you could pick. Anyway, you could get rid of the milestones. I don't know what happens with discards in these cases, right? We had something allowed a player, let's look at the end of age thing. Something allowed a player to get rid of one, right? Where is it? The player with the least P on the prestige may choose to replace chosen, etc. That doesn't sound like discard, so it went back in the deck, but discard sounds kind of final, right? Which to me would be a, okay, the Inquisition would never be available if it gets discarded from that. Which really makes sense with these, because these are by era and, you know, have an impact in that sense. It's an omen. Choose an area adjacent to your realm. All players with towns in this area lose a stability. So you have your options on there. We have some DNPR stuff and a couple of deaths there, some rebellion, and oh, I don't know what that is. Probably be a good idea to check. It's a good idea to know these, but I have tended to forget them, forget to check them before, or just not worry about it. So the spread of religious ideas determine if there are any clusters of infectious faiths in play. Right now, there are no infectious faiths, but if Protestantism were out, it would be an infectious faith, as would the Counter-Reform or the revolutionary ideals. Place Protestant Counter-Reform token in an area adjacent to a cluster, same type as the clusters there. If there are more clusters in play and you've played less than 4, put another one to another cluster. If there's no infectious faith clusters on the board, place diverse faith tokens instead in any 2 Catholic areas not adjacent to C zones marked with a cross. So the cross is the Mediterranean area, and here it makes sense now. Right? The Black Sea is a galley area, the Baltic Sea is a galley area, but it's the Mediterranean centered on Rome that the little dagger across, I think it's meant to be a cross for that, is not just a calmer sea where galleys can operate, but it's also one with a religious effect. So now we see why those two are there. I wanted to look up how these guys were set up. Whether they were completely random at the beginning of the game, or if they were whatchamacallit. So here's an example of what would not have happened. Turkey has Quest for the New World. They would have allowed that to die, perhaps, if they had known that not putting a thing on it would let it die. There's really that kind of, this is something that I did not understand from the rules at all, how these are handled. And if those are the ideas that this world is processing, and they're kind of a fixed value for all the ages, then there's a different flavor to them than I thought. I thought they were the technological advances as we go. They seem to be, because there's numbers on them that pertain to the period you're in. Now these are all, no era 2s were added, but this is what disturbs me, is that it feels like we're not going to get advance in ideas because those are clogging the table. Now again, events could pull new ones in, and they could be additional if everything has somebody on it. But I'm just really, really disturbed by the idea that, like, these ideas are cluttering the table for the entirety of the game. That feels wrong. And I'm trying to think, you know, what would fix that, right? Because some of them, for example, the military capabilities, cannons, hey, once everybody's got cannons, that should just get discarded, right? It no longer has any impact. It has no value to being in play anymore. Similarly, pretty much once anybody's gotten any of them, that may be the case. However, there's certain ones like the Janissaries or the military drill that have an impact throughout the game. But my feeling is once everybody has it, taking it away completely makes sense, because what you're basically saying is, like with the old EU, all the minor countries are going to catch up to the same technology that the major players have. And that it feels a little wrong for all of the players to have a technology, but the minors not. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'm kind of tempted towards that. If everyone gets a technology, let's discard it. And right now, the Janissaries, 5 of the 6 players have it. That's especially important if I'm going to be subbing countries in, right? Let's say Russia comes in. I don't mind if they're a little behind the lines. Now, if the Netherlands comes in, I'm a little bit more bothered by that. Or if Prussia comes in, they should be technologically about the same as everyone else. But here's the thing. They're never going to get these as minors anyway, right? They're always going to be at a disadvantage. So Sweden, who comes in, you know, who under Gustavus Adolphus essentially is coming in with the best technology, military technology in Europe. And you know, even as an NPC, they're unless there's events that really make them potent, it's kind of unreasonable, right? I don't know. Anyway, time to think about the different players and what their picks are. We got a lot of people. Well, we got France without a mission. I don't know. Everybody else seems to still have their missions around, but they can swap them out. It's a tough choice here. I have, you know, I make my decision before it's finalized after I draw the cards. But French naval power, that aligns with a card that I remember having drawn, which is the Create a Grand Fleet. It gets me 2 of the heavy ships and a bunch of light ships. Pretty good result, but the effect is to gain a couple diplomacy, but also, you know, it triggers further events later down, which are also appealing. Things like secure the Low Countries. That's appealing because the Italian wars, believe it or not, affect the Low Countries. Italian ambitions, which quite obviously is going to align with the power play card, so that would be double dipping. But also imperial border conflict double dips. I'm going to probably aim for these 2. But at the same time, looking at my cards, I'm sitting on a development card, which is very cool. And yeah, it eats up cubes, problem. It eats up cubes when I need to maybe be doing diplomacy with cubes. But it also helps me build up my engine, you know, of my economy. And I drew a couple of diplomacy and a military because I don't know which direction I'm going to go in, right? Savoy, I want to get under my control, and that might be easiest to do diplomatically. Military, I'm probably going to need for some of the other areas, because things like on the border conflict especially, Luxembourg and Namur, and Lorraine, I think even. No, Lorraine is within, it just has an Austrian thing, an Austrian alliance. So I'd basically have a choice to go to war with either Spain or Austria. Now, Spain has a hell of a big army, but a serious debt problem. Austria looks fairly healthy, to tell you the truth. They may not be able to stand up to France, but I might be able to make a move. I might be able to defeat them, but I might not, right? It's sort of a, Spain is very, very powerful also, and way in the lead. So taking them down seems like an appealing prospect. So I was thinking military against Spain, diplomacy to try to get Savoy. But now I have a shitload of cards to deal with. And some of them I'm just going to get rid of. You know, sure, he could be useful, but I'm not going to pay $2 plus another 2 for him there, especially since I'm afraid that I'm going to be really taxing my cubes this turn. I want to do things right though, like with the new alliance that forces me to discard a couple of cubes, right? No, that gains them. Shit. Everything fucking gains cubes. What is the thing that gets rid of cubes? Subjugation, which is what I was hoping to draw, but I don't have the alliance in play yet. I'm in alliance with Milan, though. I could have pulled them over with a subjugation. Decide to keep 4 of those cards. The one step ahead can be really useful in terms of because it gives you an interception capability and a withdrawal capability. New alliance, I need to take advantage of that. Although creating alliances is not that hard, right? I mean, this costs 4 and 2, but this generates cubes. I did not keep the spy network. I have one already, so this is cheaper. So that at least there's that. Development, yeah, I can't throw that away. Even though these other cards are kind of prioritized by being more victory point aligned, man, you know, the idea of upgrading one of my towns and getting a permanent income off of it, off of core areas, seems so valuable. Mercenaries was probably the iffiest of them, but I have such a pool of money that, you know, if the war goes badly, I can always throw down a few more mercenaries and float another army without as much effort. And I have a lot of military cubes. So anyway, that's the thinking there. I'm not going to go over the thinking on each player to the same extent. But France was starting with a blank slate, and their new capabilities really kind of dictated their cards. Well, kind of dictated, you know, what kind of direction they want to go in. Actually swapped out the Form Spain because that required, I think, ownership of Aragon, and I don't have that yet. Grab Discover Caribbean. I've already met the requirements there. An Italian ambition, I want to play in Italy. Part of the reason, well, I'm almost there. If I take out Genoa, I get that. And that is appealing. That works towards both. I can probably handle a minor. I'm probably that powerful. Although that huge amount of debt is really problematic and I don't have the money to pay that off. Drawing 3 cards, I ended up with a big hand. I drew 2 administrative cards, which is probably a bad idea because I'm planning on colonizing. But I can mix colonists in with the cost, and I don't actually have that. I would have to move a ship out there too to generate a trade route between them. So that might be kind of problematic as well. Although I might be able to do that off a trade action into North America if I'm lucky. Which would be a reason. It would be an interesting thing. Like I might forego a better trade card to get my ship out into the Caribbean. Yeah, I'm going into more detail. My cards are not all that helpful. I'm probably going to throw most, if not all of them away. But here's the thing. Central authority reduces the cost of stability. Right now I don't have, like, stability would be 4. This would be 2 and 2, which is 4, but it would also be able to stick around. And I have a fair number of cubes available, so I could actually keep that. Another alternative would be I could just do the increased stability card, which looks like the best choice. Now, I'm not going to hold this because I'm going to hold this. And I can only use one. I can only pay for one of these with the cubes I have. Although I could refocus, so we could consider that. Study technology, I have enough. That would let me do a cost of just one non-diplomatic cube. Now, this eats up all my diplomacy, but I'm not really sure what I can do with the diplomacy because I didn't draw a diplomatic card that helped me. So for this, I could grab something like the Inquisition, which might be very helpful to me, might not. I either want tolerance or the Inquisition, and I'd be the first person into the Inquisition, so I get, you know, the benefits from that, especially... No, this has to be target an opponent adjacent to you. Okay, so this has to grab one that's near, that someone near me has. And I am actually not near, how does this work? An opponent adjacent to your realm. The vassal is not my realm, which means that I'm not adjacent to the Turks. So the only options I really have are the French, and that's probably it. Looks like just the French. So do the French have anything? Because I can throw this away if they don't have any technologies. They have the scientific revolution. That would cost me an admin, though. Ugh. Already I'm at kind of the reorg state here. Like, this is 2. I have 2. This would cost me another 1 along with the 3. I'm not really impressed with either of these. I'm going to hold both of these because I'm not going to be able to get enough in there to do central authority and these 2. And I'm not really thrilled about it because now I'm even lower in money. You know, it's like, geez, man, maybe you shouldn't hold cards, right? When you're this poor. Do I want to throw one of these too? What am I going to do with the dip cubes? I could forge an alliance with who? With Savoy, which will have that'll cost me a couple cubes to do. I certainly can't use money for that. Yeah, I'm gonna grab $2 back and throw the technology away too. The fact that the cards come with a cost, it really throws you into this. You have to build your little economy up so that it can handle, you know, the 3-card draw and whatever. France, no problem. I could have held all the cards, right? The only thing that was hurting me there was I wouldn't have enough cubes to do it. But for Spain, the cash was an additional penalty along with the cube cost. So I don't mind that kind of optimization, honestly. Or maybe I'm just getting more used to the game, right? Maybe I would have been cursing it, you know, I don't know, 10 hours of video earlier or whatever. Jesus, these things are getting long. But here's the thing. I do tend to put this kind of coverage when I do a Euro. And I feel like the decision-making processes in this are just as heavy as they are in those Euros. The saving grace, of course, is this is actually an interesting situation, and it's tied to the history, to a fair enough event, quality. It's like, look, you know, I got some heat for my claim that there was no historical value to something I played a while back, 1714, the case of the Catalans. And, you know, the designer came back with, well, we did a lot of research. The cards have, there's history in the playbook. The cards have historical. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that the decision-making processes and the choices made didn't really feel linked too well to the history. I didn't feel like you were learning the history by making the decisions. You might be learning the history by reading the playbook and by reading the historical information on the cards, but you weren't really being faced with similar problems and coming up with similar solutions. I feel like you are in this at a very broad level. I don't remember precisely what bothered me in 1714, but I do feel like there was a little too much gaminess for what it was. It did something that this isn't, right? With this, I'm able to do some hand-wavy explanations, and I'm able to link this to what's going on. On the other hand, 1714 was an exciting and fun little game, I think. It probably needs a little buffing. I think there was rough around the edges on some rolls. Anyway. So if you enjoy this kind of sort of Whirro type game, that was actually kind of one that I brought to gaming. Nobody else liked it, but I brought to my gaming group who are kind of open to or the one that I had at the time. I no longer have a gaming group, but whatever. All right, I'm gonna hold for a little bit, and this is why it's so fucking long-winded. I go into tangents and everything all over the fucking place. But I think I'm low on tea, and we got to do the English cards. I did have to do a little bit of yard work. It's amazing, though. I mean, how quickly fatigued I get. Spent maybe 15, 20 minutes and just couldn't keep going. It's weird because it depends on what I'm doing, right? Like, I think my shopping trip, hauling my stuff home, is at least as hard at work. Certainly dancing is way harder the way I dance, but, you know, that's something I truly enjoy and everything. But it's kind of I'm just not used to this, and everything just aches, and I'm just like, oh, screw it, I'm done. But at least I got a little bit in, and if I get used to it, it'll be easier. For the English, I'm keeping the same goals. The continental possession is looking harder and harder, but the other ones that I can take are going to be painful. The Admiralty is not very pleasant because of my low money, but again, I just can't find 2 missions that I can do, so. Drew my cards, drew a couple of administrative cards. The first one was an excellent one, the exceptional year, but the problem is it has a requirement for an administrative skill. I hope, yeah, see, I'm not sure. I may have cheated with France or something, but maybe they had an administrator who died. Because Charles VIII did not have a 3, and I may have cheated. But I noticed that requirement this time, and I'm like, well, I only have a 2 under Henry VII, which feels a little low. I feel like, you know, if there's anything he was known for, it was being frugal. What does Henry VIII rate as? Also a 2, okay. Henry VIII, you could argue, was not a great administrator. Although England became very wealthy, that had to do with seizing the monasteries, which should be an event option rather than just being a good administrator, because that had huge impacts. But anyway, I want the exceptional year, so I drew another one. Got this, another good one, commercial growth. But this one costs money, is longer term. This one will help me solve my debt crisis. So I'm going to keep these 2. Naval movement I'm not going to keep. I also pulled a diplomacy card. I think I want that as well. That's going to eat up a lot of what cash I have, but at least, you know, I have the income coming in off that card. Be able to do some trade and whatnot. I hope I'll make some money. Things about being kind of weak, but either in cubes or money or whatever, in terms of not being able to do a lot of cards, you can kind of pick the best card, right? You know, you still get your same 3-card draw, but you have more unusable option or more unused options, so you can pick the best card. Whereas if you have, you know, a lot of power at this particular time, like Turkey will, you're gonna have some choices that are kind of like, well, do I really want to use this card or not? Are the base actions better? It just becomes more complicated. Here, it was very easy. I could see, yeah, this is about all I can do. You know, presentation and the clutter on the map are definitely causing issues in terms of finding locations. Because a lot of them are really kind of towns more than they really are towns more than anything else, it's a little painful. So like Brescia, I know that's going to be in Italy, but I have to find it every damn time. And then there's so much clutter on the board that it's not trivial. And I'm not seeing it now. I don't fucking know where it is. I find the territorial sizes in the old EU to be more things that I recognize in terms of where they're going to be, whatever. And that's not, I think, yeah, I can't fucking find Brescia. Some of this, there it is. It's hiding under that. And that's the thing. There's so much clutter on the board, it's hard to find the actual town locations. So that would be a vassalization of Venice. Vassalization is not something I can do without drawing cards. So that's one there. And I have to do this with all of these others as well. But it looks to me like I want to do a lot of diplomacy. Unfortunately, one way or another, I didn't take enough diplomacy cubes, which was probably a mistake. Or maybe I had to spend one for something. But I do not feel like I'm in good shape, especially since I should have gotten an additional cube there. I'm really wondering about my position here, whether I took my correct income and whatnot. I don't know. I drew a couple of diplomacy. I got ones I won. I drew another central authority. I'm not going to play it for central authority, that's for sure. It's not got an advisor, it's got a king. It would be the only king I have, and I don't have a replacement. I could end up in interregnum since I'm already sick and whatnot. So I went and checked the events, and there's nothing face up right now. Now this is where memorizing the event deck that's stacked, and it really is, you know exactly what events are going to happen, would let me know if he's going to die in the first half, if he's going to get another death marker. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know, it's not just the first half, it has to be the first half of the first half, but anything in the first half would scare me. But I'm going to assume that since the first three showing don't have what, I might be safe, and I'm not going to hold a royal card. I might get an opportunity to be able to get another one if need be with the reform action, and that would allow me to, if I do have an interregnum, to draw for a ruler and put it there without having to pay. So that's kind of helpful. An argument that Austria is wealthy enough they could have held the extra card just as a reserve in that case. But honestly, I don't know. They're not that wealthy. They're not France wealthy. And I feel like, yeah, I'm doing better than the people who are struggling with their money right now. But, hey, wow, Poland has a horde. What the hell happened? That's the effect of not doing much in a turn. You start collecting up cash. That's Henry VII's secret. He didn't do anything. Now I'm really wondering, because I also don't have any cubes here for the Poles. I'm thinking that I should probably go back and look at the last video and see if maybe I forgot to give them, obviously I gave them cash, but whether I forgot to give them their cubes or something. I don't know how I'm going to be able to tell that, but maybe I will be able to. Went and checked, and they certainly have more cubes than they had at the end of last turn. I may have fucked something up. I don't know what, if I did. I don't know why they're in that position. I drew a bunch of diplomacy cards in the hopes of drawing something that would help me. I ended up keeping one of them that'll give me an advisor. But yeah, I basically drew stuff that was just all too expensive for me to use cube-wise. And I'm like, okay, you know, even if I do a reorg, I can't do it. I don't have the cubes available. I don't know what happened, because I have a lot of reserve cubes here. So why? I don't understand. But I'm not gonna try to figure it out. When I looked on the video, it did not give me anything except that there were no cubes here. So I obviously put some in. Switched up their focus a little bit. They're going for the Balkan foothold. I can get that by just going to war with Serbia, so that is of some advantage. I'm actually keeping the rest, all my cards, which I don't have a hell of a lot of money, so that may not be a great idea. But, you know, I can get additional money through trade, whatever, perhaps. Still holding on to the thought of attacking Venice as well, because, hey, if I can take Venice down completely, that gets me more points in the Italian wars, which is appealing. And it's only a marriage, not an alliance, that Austria has, so I won't be clashing with them directly. Not that I would necessarily mind. They look kind of like sad sacks compared to the Turks. One thing that I did notice is, and this kind of fits with the old EU as well, these goals that I'm putting forward, or that I'm given options on, they don't really, they reach sort of the maximum desires that the Ottomans ever showed, right? But if I get myself established in Italy, which, you know, the Ottomans would have been just as happy with Italy as they would have been with Hungary, right? You know, they would have been thrilled to convert Italy to a Muslim state and you know, move forward in that direction. That's not going to trigger anything over in my missions. My missions are going to be like, I'm looking through them because I'm following this one pattern. I'm like, well, what are my follow-ups here? Well, I still have Safeguard Anatolia, fine. I really should have that, and I should get that. Control of the Danube, okay, that makes sense. That's a historical. Conquer the Levant, down in here. Again, it makes sense, it's historical, but if I'm not heading in that direction, if I choose not to go in that direction, I don't get any further options. Control the Barbary coast, that'll be the North Africa. Again, every one of these is right, control of the Black Sea, but I'm in no position to go for that. Conquer Mesopotamia, again, I'm in no position to go for that right now. And conquer Egypt. I probably do need to take the Mamluks out. They're not going to be as easy in this game as they are in the original EU. Both Hungary and the Mamluks are really just normal countries, and you have to take them as you would normal countries, and they're fairly large, so they're kind of painful. However, there's also, you know, there's no penalty other than not going for your goals, to kind of ignoring things. So, for example, the fact that the Mamluks are actually encroaching into Anatolia, which is really problematic, doesn't really hurt me, except that I'm not taking that card. I'm taking other things, and something just feels kind of off, you know? Like, first of all, this should be a threat to my national security, and there's no question about that. Like, I should be being penalized more than just, I'm not getting the points for that card. Now, I am to some extent, because this could actually establish itself to be causing more and more problems with me as they grow. wiping them out or reducing them significantly would put me in a much stronger position where I could come after them again if they threaten me. But I'm not going to have any goals beyond the Balearics. Like, there's no reconquest of Spain, which honestly, I would think, if we were heading in this direction, would be something that the Ottomans would be interested in. There's a lot of arguments. Again, it's sort of their maximal desires that they ever had that are represented in the cards. But their desires would be different if they followed a different path. That's all I'm kind of saying. The fact that they have no interest in the New World, but hey, you know, that was the thing that showed up that I wanted to take, right? Is somewhat impactful there. Anyway, that's going to put us to the actual action phases, which for some reason I'm set up there. And I need a rest. Both the physical activity and then, you know, even the mental and just walking around looking at cards and stuff, that's exhausting me too. And actually physically exhausting me. I don't know why. What I'm wondering is whether if I gave Russia a DNPR status, if that would be enough to cause Poland sufficient problems. And that would allow Russia to kind of expand and whatnot. So I wouldn't just have to, if somebody's dropping Poland or Austria, which I think are the most likely drops, I can't see any of the other nations really being so beaten up. But Poland especially looks like they've really kind of washed out and may not be able to recover. Forgot to lift him up. If the DNPR would be enough, even if there was a solid, strong Poland, to slow that down or stop it. You know, I look at the different DNPRs that are in the game, and other than Portugal, which has special cards to trigger stuff that happens for it, none of them were really all that active, right? We're not seeing the Mamluks, the Persians. Yeah, they're expanding a little bit, but I feel like I could probably take them on in a war. You know, Turkey certainly should be able to take the Mamluks out in a war fairly easily. Likewise, Hungary, which isn't even a DNPR, and it shouldn't be, but it's a powerful, large state. But I'd like to see Muscovy grow, you know, beyond what it is. Because it did a little bit during this period still. But I think it expanded too much for the DNPR mechanisms to apply to it. Honestly, you know, what's needed is a 7th player counter mix, maybe an 8th player, right? Because I could make a pretty good argument for some other power to be on the board in that early part, especially if I'm allowing that kind of swapping in and out or whatever. A weird sort of lethargy, but trying to push through. The French, you know, I noticed this revolts in the Low Country comes with a power struggle. So the Italian wars are actually going to happen on this one. Which means I really ought to work in that direction. The selection of a development card is causing me problems here. I really want to play it. If I do, I'll still have the points to do a new alliance after a reorientation because I have the spy network in play. Of course, that development card will eat up a bunch of cubes, and I won't be able to use them right away. Unless I reorganize in that direction, which is painful. What I am set up to do is to go to war with Savoy. And maybe I just want to do that right away and grab that, grab possession there. I think that's probably my best move. So that is what we shall do. I have my monarch in charge of my army. I put a war marker I have a casus belli because I have a claim to Savoy. So I'll put that there. That marriage doesn't mean a damn thing. And I'll take my free action to just move in. There are 3 Savoyan soldiers. 2, 3, wait. 4 Savoyan soldiers there who may have a general. I have a 2-die general in the king, and the advantage of the Tercios technology. So that's pretty decent. Let's I don't see anything I definitely want to do. So let's draw for a general. There is not one. My 5 dice. I have a cannon. I have lots of hits on them. I have wiped them out. And they get 3 dice. Oh, they hit us twice. That's not good. Put them in the right place, not the wrong place. That's a success, though. This is the one problem. I constantly am pulling stuff in and out of that tray, which is why I had it over here. But that gets me my military cube back. Let me move forward. That's a bit of a problem. They want a claim to Genoa. Genoa is the one thing I need, and I don't have the cards to do it. I'm going to do an increased stability since I'm down 1. Just off that. That doesn't do me any great harm. And that gains me a prestige and remove an unrest. Ugh. I know the Low Countries are going to be a problem, so I'll move the unrest there. But not really thrilled. I feel like I'm fucking something up, you know, in terms of like strategy and whatnot. I think I want to do that no matter what, but I want to look at the power struggle again. That gives some cheaper things once it's active. Once it's active. Fabricate claims is less. So I'll be able to make that war with Genoa. But I want the event to be triggered first. And I may have to trigger it myself to get that to work. I was very interested in the act of supremacy here, obviously. They don't know which way they want it to go. So lots and lots of money would definitely be helpful. But, the base tax value increase, but losing 2 stability would hurt, and losing cubes would hurt. Is there anything I can do with my cubes with the cards I have? I don't think anything expends cubes here. That's, yeah, that's the dominance here. This would take advantage of my cubes, though, which maybe I want to do this first. Get myself a royal marriage before I have to maybe get rid of cubes. Right now, everything's Catholic, basically. And so I kind of don't want anything terrible to happen. Now, the problem is, this is not a royal marriage area. I don't have cubes in the Netherlands, so I can't play, I can't, well, actually, the Netherlands does not have one of these markers. It's Wallonia and whatnot. I'm trying to see, can I get involved? That card would let me get into the Italian territory. However, I've got this stupid continental possessions I'm trying to get here. That's 4 or more provinces. Hanover is only 1. I have an alliance with Hanover. I could also engage a marriage with that. I didn't get the subjugation. That's the thing I really needed. Of course, that doesn't help with an ally anyway, I think. I Well, alliance does help, but I don't think it's the important. Maybe it is the important thing. I can't fucking remember. You know, it's one of the problems is, you know, I have to plan for stuff that I can't see in front of me, and there's no compendium of the standard cards. I'm really torn what to do with the English. I was going to do exceptional year. That's I think what I'll do to begin with, I guess. But in order to do that, I need to first pay this guy $2. Not quite alone. Oh boy, are we in trouble. And then as my main action, I can play this. 2 chips. I can remove an unrest. Huh. Well, that's odd. I don't have any. I have a rebellion. Jesus. Got to build an army to deal with that. But I do gain $9, which is a nice big chunk of change. I don't know. You know, two cubes I could be trading. Problem is, I'm just not in a position to compete either for my missions or, more importantly, for the power struggle that's going to get triggered. And, you know, England being involved in the Italian wars probably doesn't make much sense, although this would have been a huge add if I had been able to take that territory from Spain. I really got hosed by that whole situation. And yeah. I forgot about something, and I pushed on and did a couple of other countries, but I'm going to roll it back to handle this, which is that a non-HRE realm declared war on an imperial subject. Savoy is imperial. The imperial prestige is +1 or higher. The emperor gets a defensive CTA from the subject unless the subject is at war with the emperor. The player emperor can accept such a call to arms as if from an ally, but also tagging the defending the HRE slot in the status mat with a tag chit. As long as the emperor is still at war, this ability will be active. If a player emperor refuses the CTA, instead of the normal effects of refusing, they lose some imperial prestige. So we will declare war on the French, and oh boy. And the French get a war chit over in Austria, if I can find Austria. Okay. Upon activating defending the HRE, a number of NPR units equal to the Emperor's total in elector areas is added to the Imperial force pool on the status map. How many elector areas do I have? Oh, God. All right, well, that's not going to be easy to find. There's no tracking of it externally. I'm going to have to look up the electorates. Elector areas, let's see, what do we have? The area must contain a capital of at least one HRE member of all such capital. Oh, fuck. Come on. They're indicated on the map board by an imperial eagle. Yeah, that's not easy. That's not easy to see. Bohemia is one of them. That much I know. There's an imperial eagle. Okay. Yeah, it's the imperial eagles. Great. How am I going to see all these? There should be a fucking list somewhere. Oh boy. Areas are indicated on the board by an imperial eagle. These areas are of extra importance to anyone with ambitions. To count as an elector, the area must contain a capital. So, now, what was this? A number of NPR equal to the total cubes in elector areas, including imperial cubes, is added to the force pool. Okay, so I will look for where I have cubes. I have cubes in Bavaria, which doesn't appear to have an eagle. I have cubes here, so that's 3 armies. I may have fucked up. 6 armies, 8 armies. It looks to me like I'm going to get 8 black armies in the Imperial Force Pool. Now, how are these used? Yeah, this is the problem. France fucked up, is what the problem is. Because the empire is big. And we may have just been... We fought that battle against Savoy. We may have to keep fighting it. We got lucky, is what happened, and I probably should have built a bigger army. Okay. The Emperor may use the Imperial armies in every battle where they participate in HRE areas or any areas of their realm that are adjacent by land to an HRE area. They may at the start of battles add all of this infantry as infantry units that will fight alongside their army, except in battles where the enemy facing the Emperor only consists of NPR, HERE. Okay, so the battle was fine as done. The Imperial units work like Allied units in the battle, but are kept separate from any other Allied units. Once the battle is over, any surviving Imperial units return to the pool. These will be available for later battles. When the Emperor is at peace again, they go back. Okay. So we now have the defending slot. That's here. This should have happened when France declared their war. But we'll see. While that slot is tagged, PRs at war with the Emperor may not enforce peace on any imperial subjects unless they have achieved a victory over the Emperor in the war. Instead, peace must be negotiated with the Emperor, who may agree to peace terms on behalf. If a war with an external aggressor is won by the Emperor, they gain a prestige if no provinces are ceded to external realms. If a war against an external aggressor is lost, they lose 1 prestige. If whole areas leave the HRE, they will lose prestige from this as they normally would. Okay, well, Austria's in a war that they weren't counting on happening. France wasn't counting on this either. Neither one is thrilled with this situation. France thought they were just gaining Savoy. Hey, shit happens. Just wait, because Spain is going to go to war with Genoa, which also will throw Austria into an ugly position. Important facet of this is, look at the CTBs, wherever the fuck they are. Oh boy. I don't know where the call to arms is. So, normally, Austria would be able to call on their allies here. In particular, they've got an alliance with Lorraine, which, you know, that would add, I think, 1 military unit, and it would become an active ally. But much more importantly, Hungary, which has a huge army. But I don't think they're able to because they were not declared war on. They came in on a call to arms, and I don't know where call to arms is covered. So we'll look for the different places. God, I'm tired. 13 and 32. I'm guessing it's here. Okay, yeah. All right, so when you declare war, someone declares war on you or your NPR ally, you may send a call to arms. That is not the case with the HRE here. No one declared, well, I don't know. I don't know. I might be able to spend, I think it's cubes, to bring a call to arms into play. So let's see what we got here. We were declared war on. no, our subject was, we receive a defensive CTA. We can accept it. Let's look at page 32. Okay, so we accepted a CTA. If accepting an offensive, put your war tokens on your allies' enemies. If accepting a defensive, place the enemy PR's war tokens on your own. See, this is what I'm talking about. It looks like the war tokens are not reflective, but that's how the truce tokens happen, and I'm just really bothered by it. If accepting a defensive CTA from an NPR ally, you may send a defensive CTA to your other NPR allies. Is this that case? I don't think so. If you accept one when you are also allied to a PR on the opposing side, if accepting a CTA from an NPR, decide whether or not you wish to make them an active ally or not. I do not, because I already fought a full battle. But I declared war. So I think that I may be able to send a call to arms. When you declare war, sending a CTA. All right, we got to go to page 13, I guess, to find this rule. It's a minor action. Yeah, so I think this would cost me 2 cubes. See, I'm not really the aggressor either. I may not even be allowed to send a call to arms. War has not been declared upon me. I accepted a CTA from an NPR ally? No. Calling your PR allies to war has no cost. I honestly think that I cannot call anyone to arms to support the empire. Which feels a little weird until you take into account that the imperial army is that support. This is the feudal levies of the empire coming about. If I'm in a position to vassalize someone, I don't really want to do that yet, because then they become possible targets for the French. I feel like I've got a pretty good army here. I could spend a cube, build more forces, maybe get a cannon or something to help with sieges. Again, I don't think I really want to do that. I think the one thing I want to do, though, is get into range. Now, I'm allowed to walk through the empire. Do I want to go into Switzerland, or do I want to go into northern Italy? Milan is an ally, but it's not an active one. The French could have spent cubes to bring Milan into this war, but they thought they were only facing Savoy. I'll position myself there. I am fatigued at this point, and really can't go on. I feel like I've done a lot today, and I haven't. It's really pathetic, but yeah. Another thing that the old EU, again, with $10 you could move as many of your forces around, as long as they weren't invading something, as you liked. That allowed you to basically hunt down pirates and stuff like that without having to spend a specific military cube for it. The British can't do that. They have 3 ships. They could probably sink that pirate. But for them to hunt those pirates down, they have to spend a military cube, and they get nothing else out of it. They only get their naval action, right? That's somewhat disturbing to me, because those are like, the idea of suppressing pirates to me feels like a pretty standard thing. And I'm so used to the old game where, you know, exploration, repositioning your forces so that they're facing the enemy properly and everything. You can do that all for $10. And basically you do a couple of actions like that. And that's all you do in the course of a turn. Now again, the turns are only 5 years. But here, you know, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like each action you take militarily is at least as big as a turn in the old EU, yet you're only really able to activate one force at a time. Yes, you're able to swarm your ships together in one place, but other than that, you're moving one army or one navy, and just a couple of spaces. It's really unlikely that you're going to spend a whole hell of a lot of cubes. Even when we had a warfare going on, a lot of the cubes were spent on sieges and whatnot. Sieges came kind of for free once you invaded it under the old system. You had to pay your $10 to maintain the siege, right? But what you didn't have to do was pay $100 to operate multiple armies at a time. That was for the very rich countries when they wanted to do a massive invasion all at once and get a lot of impact on one turn. And I have almost never seen it done there. So I'm not saying something like that, but I am saying that the amount of military operations feels much, much lower in this. Now, in the computer game, man, everything's moving at once all the time when you're at war. In fact, it's one of the things I find kind of distracting about the game is because it's an RTS and you're moving all your pieces, all your forces at once, it's really hard to pay attention to the other things you're trying to do at the same time, because you have to do your economics, you have to do your exploration, you have to do all that while your armies are off, on their marches, right? You can't just sit there watching the army get there as you would in, as you essentially would in the old board game. Here, though, it feels like the military is at the least active, even less than the original board game, and certainly way less than the computer game had. Well, I walked away in sort of confusion, whatever. I have so little I can do with Poland, with these few cubes, and I don't understand why there's so little. I have a lot of cash. I have a couple of cards. New alliance, that's going to cut into my cube supply, and it's really iffy what it would help. For one thing, I think I have all my alliances on the board. So I was thinking I would put that down as an advisor for $2. I have this man of the church, the other thing that I might want to do, right? Play a cube, a couple bucks. I think the best thing I can do is a cardinal, because I don't own enough territory in areas where religion is mixed. It's mixed like down here, but I would need, I guess that's Kiev, in order for that to work, and I don't have that yet. I didn't get the subjugation card that I kind of wanted, but I've got a sickly ruler, and he is going to die. And I think I'd rather have... this does not help much. Yeah, I'm going to go with the man of the church. Get some bonuses off that. It's just... the interregnum is just not that big a deal, comparatively. Now, of course, that uses up a cube anyway, but gives me control of the church. I just can't justify. This guy is just not that much better than the interregnum rulers. He would be Alfonso of Poland. And I don't know how that would translate. I wonder what this card is. I have the feeling it may be a general, but it may have also been something I discarded. I'm going to put him in as general because of where he is, but I don't remember why he's there. I have a lot to do and a lot of cubes, decent money. Yeah, there's a debt, but it's not that terrible. They were right, it's not that horrible, but they are kind of an addiction. If I want to go to war with Crete and Naxos perhaps at the same time, that's gonna, I don't know if I should do Naxos. If I want to go to war with Crete, that would mean I might want more navy than I have, because Venice if I'm going to push that far. Now I have a land route up there, which is appealing too, but my army is not in the right place to use the land route. So that's not optimal. I would need a navy here to be able to transit over. What I'm thinking I would like to do is maybe, I don't want to play the development card yet. I'm kind of thinking this will replace him. He's going to die. Got a military commander who will replace the military who's going to die. Got a diplomatic subjugate. That might be of some use. I don't have an ally anywhere anymore. This has fallen. I have my army kind of spread out in stupid places to some extent. But the revolutionary idea looks interesting, right? And I could pay this to, and I look around, and the obvious one is the Inquisition, because I get an extra, oh, do I have my stability up? No, I haven't gotten my stability up yet. Oh, why am I holding this shit? Why did I pay? Oh, boy. All right. Well, I can get my stability up. That might be the best move then. The problem is, I think I'm going to need a lot to fight this war, but I want to get things fixed before the war is undertaken. So let's take a look. Stability would cost me 4 fucking cubes. That's huge. I hate using that much, but we kind of need it. Kind of need to get myself into better shape. That's going to put me back over to the first player of the French. That's it until I get some sleep. I'm not in good shape in terms of being very, very tired. So, yeah. For one of those tangents, I was stickering Inferno here. And it got me, for whatever reason, thinking about that it is kind of a Eurofied design as well. You know, honestly, everything that comes out, the new systems, the new types of games, yeah, you know, there's stuff that's rehashing the old classic styles. But when somebody's looking to come up with something very new, quite often they're pulling ideas from the Euro side of gaming. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I liked Levy and Campaign or whatever, the one that I played, and it's on auto order now, basically. But we'll see, because I do remember having a bit of struggle like I do with this. But for whatever reason, that got me to thinking about the PAX games. Phil Eklund's things that he's kind of converted from the old Lords games that he had to PAX style games. So like, I know he was talking about Lords of the Renaissance he was going to make, and I don't know if he did PAX Renaissance, but PAX Porfiriana and all the games on that series. And what went wrong with me for them, as opposed to like what went right with Inferno? And I think the biggest thing was I felt like I was playing Illuminati. You know, it's one thing if I'm playing Illuminati, which was, you know, a groundbreaking game, and it, you know, had these neat design ideas and everything, and it was a fairly simple game. But when you start using that same kind of mechanism in something more complex, you run into the kind of difficulties that I'm having with this. Now, I like the mechanisms here better than I would in a Euro of anywhere near this complexity. But they do kind of get in the way of everything. And I just felt like I was totally losing track of the story and everything. Now, a map helps a lot, though. I'll say that much for it. And I know at least one of the PAX games has a map. But I don't know why I ran into that. I ran into that discussion, but I figure if I'm going to talk about my random life shit, I might as well also talk about some of my random ideas. Help run the time up on these videos because they're way too short. All right, I guess it's Monday. Ready to jump in, but I wanted to hit my personal stuff because I always do, right? So, yard work I did yesterday. Woke up this morning after a full night's sleep, which is very odd, and that may also factor into this. And soon after, my back twinged, and it's not in good shape. I work with a reticulated hedge trimmer type thing, and the hill that I have is really tough to work on, and that's why it's very fatiguing, because maintaining my balance on the slippery mud and everything is hard. Anyway, and I ended up hurting myself. My back hasn't gone out in quite a while, so it's kind of odd that it did. It's not too bad, but it's bad enough I don't want to go out and do any more of that. All right, onward. So France was planning on an easy little war, right? Now they see the Austrians are in range, and I don't have anything like an army. So I'm going to raise an army. Luckily, I'm in an area, rather than sieging Savoy, I'm in an area where I can raise up 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 units, which is probably more than I can raise. I don't see that many there. Wow, I got a lot of fatigued units. Don't know how that happened. But yeah, I think I'll say it's good to have money. That's for sure. Spain's in an interesting and annoying place. They were planning on going to war with Genoa. Still want to do that, all the more so because France has ended up at war with Austria. Spain is probably going to have to end up at war with Austria as well. France and Spain are sort of becoming an axis of sorts, constantly picking at the same people. But I'm low on cubes, obviously, but much, much worse. I don't have money and I don't have an army. And I'm up to my ass in debt. Now, I'm going to need a navy to fight Genoa. Genoa's got a 3-point navy here, which, you know, I equal, but I would like to have better than that. So I think it's time for me to build some galleys, but I just do not have a lot of cash. Do I want to go into risk of bankruptcy is the real question. By taking out that 5th loan, I kind of think I have to. Now, sorry, I clicked off for no great reason. Prior to building that navy, I might want to do something, and army, I might want to do some things to kind of, oh shit, I don't have a claim to Genoa. Maybe this ain't the turn. I could fabricate a claim once the thing triggers the power play. I can fabricate for 1. That's not too bad. But I need to delay stuff. Now, one thing I could do is I could trigger that power play, but man, I would rather this just doesn't happen. I would rather this end up being the one nobody plays. I doubt that'll be the case. And I'm not seeing a hell of a lot that's going to help me. Here, comet sighted. All players lose a stability. I get to screw around with some stuff. Or I could just hit people next to my realm. Who's next to my realm? France. Don't really want to hurt them. Not particularly. I could screw with the act of supremacy. I brought this up before. I gain a diplomacy by making England not do the act of supremacy. You know, it's tempting. It's a way to delay things. I don't have a hell of a lot else that I can do right away. So, do I want to trigger that? Do I want the bonus of hitting France? Oh wait, my realm goes way up here. Yeah, I could screw with England instead. I choose an area adjacent to my realm. All players with things in that area would lose a stability. Yeah, if I'm going to screw with England, why don't we do this one? Not really thrilled. I would have liked to have grabbed some cash or something off of my event, but I really need to delay. Although I may need to establish that claim and start the war soon. At the very least, I can build my army. Choose an area adjacent to your realm, all players. Yeah, so I'm going to choose the London area up here, and that'll cost the English down to -2 stability. Why am I so anti-English? Not really any great reason. They're low on the chart, but I kind of want to let France beat up the Austrians. That's in my best interest. So, oh wait, I could hit the Austrians. Screw that, man. The hell with France. Okay, so I'm going to pick this area instead, and that'll cause a stability loss for Austria. Is Austria doing terribly well? No, not at all. I'd be better off in terms of game point wise, hitting the French. If this was like a coin game or something, certainly if I was playing one age, maybe. But the way things are, I'm playing for the long game. I want Austria to be hurting. I want them to come out of this war poorly because I'm going in against their interests. Whether or not, Okay. So that's the effect of the event. And now we start looking at the secondary impacts. I don't know if this was wise, but that looks like an attrition. Lucky for me, I don't have any troops. No, that's a native uprising? What the hell? Each player loses a cube from the colonist pool and gains an unrest in a distant land. Oh! Well, this was likely to happen anyway. And I'll be getting a cube later from my claim anyhow. I probably don't have the points. I don't have the admin points to build a colony, so fine, whatever. Okay. You may choose to ignore one of the two events. I'll choose to ignore the loss of the cube. I can always take this off the board. Now I get to pick one green and one orange colored thing to operate. Green is there. I don't want that happening, but that is the only green. And the only orange is over here. There are only 3 of these. 4 of these. 1 of each color. Okay. So green. Place a thingy on adjacent to the DNPR. This may not be a capital, nor can it be occupied, owned by DNPR's ally or core province. The province or NPR is selected. Okay. Who the hell is this? Oh, this is the Portuguese. Oh my. Do they have like DNPR is facing the Atlantic Ocean. You may instead place it on any vacant territory. I honestly would rather see them. They're the up and down ones. I would rather not see them in the New World. There are reasons I might want to, but I could put them like in the Cape of Good Hope or something like that. But on the other hand, I'm the only one exploring. So we'll let them start taking Tunisian territory out. Over to the orange. Well, I could start screwing with the Turks more. We like screwing with the Turks. Sure. We'll put this up in Silvas here. I'm allowed to do that, right? Or no, because it's core. This may not be a capital, nor can it be occupied, owned by a DP, or core province of a PR. Yeah, I can't do it there. All right. Oh, blah, 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 blah. We could take Naxos. We'll just go into Konya. Continue our growth there. And then we have square deaths. Spain pretty hard. With this Ferdinand took a hit, but also two of our only two advisors got hit. I'll keep looking. Also lost a couple advisors. No hits on the king. Money. Hey, nice having the tray here. It's easier to get. And we draw the new one. The Italian Wars Part 2. Increased tension. Castile gains 2 military and claim in each of these areas with French stuff. Lombardy, Central Italy. Nothing there. Venetia, Naples, and Sicily. No, we're not going to gain anything there. France gains claims in the above areas with Castilian stuff, and the player who plays this gains a military piece. So that first one doesn't really do anything. East tension, Castile loses a prestige, but gains 2 cubes in one of the areas above. Person who gets it. And I get Charles V here, who theoretically should be coming with the empire too, right? We've got Maximilian I. When he dies, Charles V should get it. I don't think there's any event that plays that way, which really disturbs me. Like, Charles V wouldn't be Charles V without that imperial thing. And it's just this one weird little place. Yeah. I'm never sure how to cope with this kind of thing. You know, part of me wants this sort of blood royale thought that these royal marriages are contained properly in the game, and that something like the Habsburg accumulation and eventually, you know, all pointing to Charles V should be something that almost that's possible to happen during play of the game instead of through just fixed events. It's not that big a deal in the original EU because that starts in 1492. This is all set up at that point, right? And honestly, the Hungarian and Bohemian marriages are all set up at that point. Everything is in place. But then if you push it back to 44, this one big, very special royal marriage situation is you know, in the process of being created at that point. This set of royal marriages the Habsburgs managed to make, and this is something that really sort of drives diplomatic situations for centuries. You know, the ascension of Charles V. That it's not like Spain and Austria are absolutely tied at the hip, but they remain intermarried and friendly with one another throughout the entire period, something that this is just not going to represent. So I just don't know what to say about it. I mean, it could be represented by the two players basically aligning with each other. But here we see the opposite happening. Okay, that's going to get me to the Ingles. Guess the English are going to... See, this is hard. I could pay to get a really good cube generator, but I'm so low on money. I think I'm going to pay to get a royal marriage. I'm going to take this one in Bremen. I don't know how to do this. And just move on. It's not going to be an exciting turn for me. I could be doing the supremacy, but I made my decision. It's kind of a funny day for me because in my addiction, a clan war is starting, and that means I can't play when I usually do. Like it just the timing. There's sort of a turnover of the day when you get all kind of new resources and everything. I can't play right then the way I normally do. Like I can't burn most of my functionality then. So kind of means I have to go to sleep and take a nap type thing, and just this night is the one where I decided, to actually sleep through the night. Another appealing option for the English, I didn't do this, but would have been to go for free trade. It's going to be out there. This would give me an extra merchant and a trade event. There aren't as many merchants that I'm like active in as there were before, so it's not that important right now. And I think the marriage, trying to work towards this continental possessions, is actually a pretty good idea. I really did not want this war with France. I have 2 diplomatic cards that require that I be at peace to play them. I may end up paying to put an advisor down later. My army is not as big as the French army, but it is if I throw these guys in. So I guess in we go. Now, this is where a conflict this far apart table-wise is really hard in the solo play. I'm going to have to walk back and forth. The French could buy a bunch of mercenaries to increase their army. I don't want to do that yet. All those armies don't really help me. I don't want to intercept anything that's happening. So I am okay, but I have the military traditions that I'll probably end up playing. Is Piedmont a different area here? This is all Lombardy. It looks different color. It's mountains or something. So the Austrians move in there. Now they're going to commit this entire army, I guess, because it doesn't really hurt to do so. I'll just keep that there. Okay, so the French are going to play military traditions to remove 2 dice from the Austrians. Now, the French are going to be getting, I have my king as general, 5 white dice. Veterans are kind of like drill. That's not surprising. We both have janissaries. The French have cannon. Oh, the Austrians don't even have cannon. Neat. The French have a cannon present. So let's remember the 5 dice there. Here, I have five dice as well, but I am back. Jesus, I don't remember how many. Okay, this is for each roll. So the Austrians are at 3 dice here. Their leader does not help them, although he's present to die. Ooh! That's 4 hits on the French. Well, that's a big hit. I can just put these in the dead pile. I've got plenty of French. That is the death of their king. Oh no! Okay. The death of their king. Now, at this point, immediately I can appoint a new king. Don't have one? So I get the interregnum card. which, let me see if I can find it. One of these, and it has a bunch of reminders on it. But every player could be under an interregnum. So now I was under oh shit, forgot my leader. 3, 4, 5 dice, because the battle is simultaneous. 5 dice. I have these guys, and that's it. Lots of cannons, but only one of them counts. I do 2 hits against the Austrians. This actually goes away. It will not be available for later battles. One reason you wouldn't want to bring everybody in is if you lose the battle, you could lose all these troops. Wow. The French are in a much worse position. We're down to 3 dice, but we kind of need to win this battle. We don't have a new general. We're not going to be able to get that, although we could use military education at the beginning of a turn. What happens if we retreat? We haven't done retreating. I know there's a price to retreating, and here's the thing. I am getting 3 dice. The Austrians are getting 3 dice. I have cannons, the Austrians don't. It works out pretty close, and I can burn, well, 3 dice if I burn these. Those are an expense, though, because they cost me military cubes here as well. Where is retreat? Units remaining on both sides remove casualties, may retreat. Before this can happen, each side has an option. Right. Attacker chooses first. If you choose to retreat from a battle, you lose an additional unit as a casualty. The defenders may retreat to any adjacent area that does not contain enemy units. The problem is those HRE units, I believe, can be used anywhere adjacent to the HRE as well. The Emperor can participate in HRE areas or any areas of the realm that are adjacent by land to an HRE area. And they can add all the infantry units. Yeah. This is ugly for the French. I kind of feel like I'm in a do or die situation here and have to defeat the Austrians. Am I wrong? I don't know. I could pull a general. So I could take an extra unit loss and next turn pull a general. Pick and assign any general from the discard. Let me look and see. But general, that's going to mean more to me. I'm going to withdraw, taking another loss. I could also recuperate my army. But again, each of these things takes cubes. Ooh, I could really recuperate my army with the mercenaries. As an automatic event. That means the Austrians have won a battle and get a cube back. Yay! With this Imperial army, minus the one that got hurt, that got killed, that is still available for every battle in reasonable areas, which means it's very flexible. I could conceivably fight a defensive battle during the French turn, and then an offensive battle, you know, on the other side of the empire using those same troops. So the Imperial levy is like this huge force that's in play. Who controls the papacy? The Poles do. They probably do not want to do anything with it, especially since they have no diplomatic power. Though they could call a crusade, you know, against somebody, like against the Turks or something. That would be useful. But not in this game. They don't have the cubes right now. My own fault, but whatever. It is so bloody weak. It has so few cubes. They have money. Money don't buy you cubes. It was a song or something, right? That I have almost nothing I can do, which means it's time to look at the events. There's nothing that I really want to do, so the question is, what do I gain? I mean, one of them is the revolt in the Low Country. That would cause some serious pain to the Spaniards. It would trigger the Italian wars, which might cause all kind of interesting stuff to happen. But the serious pain to the Spaniards, you know, sure, they're in the lead, but look how far I am. This isn't my problem. Let Turkey or France do one of these. It's not my duty, because there's nothing that I gain for this. Although there are interesting things that happen. Act of supremacy, that could get me a diplomacy cube. Seems like a good idea. And the Italian wars could gain me either a diplomacy cube or a military cube. What would I do if I had a diplomacy cube? I could go up to 3 and could play this. Unfortunately, this is a thing that puts cubes on the board. It doesn't have to, though. I remove any 2 from a target NPR, then add 2. Do I have an alliance I can gain, though? And the answer to that is no. All 3 alliances are on the board. I already looked at this and said, wow, that's a pointless fucking card for me. Can diplomacy do anything? I could get a military cube instead. Could diplomacy do anything for me? I can't forge an alliance. I could fabricate claims. I could trade. None of those sound all that appealing. Now, if I took a military cube, or a diplomacy, it doesn't matter, I could actually shift that over. I could have a total of 3 military cubes. What about these things? Reincorporate Mazovia. They're allied to me. I want to subjugate them. I don't want to... And the same problem is with the knights. Own or vassalize. I've set them up in an alliance so that I can subjugate them. I can't get a subjugate card. Guess what I have, though? I have this. I can draw 2 action cards of any type and keep one of them. All right. This is what I'll do. We'll see if I can get that subjugate card. I'll draw one of these. Hey, I got it. I don't know what else. I'll draw another one of those. All right. I got the subjugate card. That's what I want. I hope I can power this up, but I believe I can and get one of my advantages, and that moves this forward without having to burn the event yet. There might be something better that comes out by the next time, well, within the next couple times around, because now I have something I can do, right? Well, maybe not, because I don't have a diplomatic cube yet, so I'm going to have to either reorganize or, which I'd really rather not do. I can, of course, throw cubes away, but yeah, I'm not happy with my situation at all. I really don't like about these white tables, all the stain, the tea, coffee stains, the tobacco, all that shows so well how fucking dirty my play area gets. I clean them, you know, before I play a game on them, but just, I don't know. And that's important with this game because the other side is another map. It's not just okay. On to the Turks. Oh boy. Let me think. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have turned this on. I was just so excited about the dirt. Turks are going to continue delaying as well. This is dangerous, though, because if people start passing and the turn ends quickly, I won't get to do everything that I need to do. I was going to play Revolutionary Ideas. I got my stability up to do that. This is the reason why I'm doing it. I spent 2, and now oh shit. No, I can't. I screwed up. See, what I want to do is I want to create Inquisition, because then I get an extra prestige out of that. But I don't have 4 admin cubes, and there's no easy way for me to get admin cubes right now. Another option would be to play the development card and start setting stuff up for that. That's an even cheaper way to turn areas into mine. Sure, we'll do that. Oh, shit. I really wanted the revolutionary ideas, though. Oh, we're going to have to take that. All right, so we put this out, and we put a whole fistful of cubes on this. But that's okay. Development's a good one. And we're going to run through the others. I hope. I hope. I hate to get into a cube shortage situation. They just infuriate me so much for no good reason. Not at all optimal, because normally getting a military commander is a minor action. But I'm burning, this was the plan, getting myself a big three die commander for that army. Now, what helps me here is I have this one step ahead. Yeah, that costs another military action. But I can do an interception if the Austrians move. But they're going to be sieging stuff, and that's presumably, I don't know for sure, they don't have to maintain a supply line. Now, not having to maintain a supply line is particularly egregious when you come to, let me look at the movement rules, see if there's something that's preventing this, because the problem is the world changes over the course of the game period, right? This kind of moving around through enemy territory and not sieging towns makes sense in the medieval era. It makes sense in the 30 Years' War era. It doesn't make any damn sense once you get to sort of the Age of Reason, you know, your Spanish Succession War, even Louis XIV, you're starting to get to this, hey, the fortification systems are becoming strong enough that it's not safe, and the armies are getting big enough that it's not safe to move around within enemy territory. And there doesn't seem to be anything that covers that. Now, the old game definitely had the, yeah, you can't just, you know, flow through, you can't do the chevauché type medieval operations at all, which came out a little wrong, I think, in, first of all, you weren't playing very much in the medieval period. Like, countries almost immediately moved their way up to Renaissance, and the chevauché type of mentality was kind of gone from the military. Sieging became pretty important. If you get to the 30 Years' War era, where there was a lot of sort of armies living off the land and not really threatened by the fortresses, well, to be fair, most of the battles happening there were either the English Civil War or the 30 Years' War itself inside of Germany. Now, inside of Germany, there are all kind of rules where you can move around through like neutral states that aren't involved in the war, etc. So there was a fair amount of ability to move around and get through to things. You could also make the argument that in any kind of area-based game, it doesn't really make sense to have this kind of fluid movement. The areas are big enough that the fluid movement's being represented in them. So, I'm going to look for the rules, see if there's something that prevents the English. Well, so the the Austrians are allied with Savoy. So they, no matter what the rules are, would be able to do something and penetrate the French defenses there. I'm just not sure I want to prosecute the war, right, against France. I would love to take these cities, but I can't do it while that army's there. So there may be enough just in the play of the game to prevent me from wanting to do unreasonable things. Like just, you know, march in. I don't particularly want to march into here. I've got the advantage here, force the French to attack and spend their cube on that. Of course, if they spend their cube, they might get a cube back. So, because only the active player gets their cube back when an attack happens. The defender can't. But our forces are close enough aligned that I don't really want to do much more than just sit and defend. And if we see that that is the general feel of the game, that without wiping out the enemy army. But the thing is, I can do some kind of depredations that are really nasty. If that army's gone, I could march into France and start conquering France instead of the Burgundian areas. And there's nothing, there's nothing that there could be in the rules because I do have Savoy, right? But if I didn't have it, it would feel particularly weird that I could be operating so far from my supply lines. That's kind of my feeling on that. Okay, I am not seeing anything that prevents you from moving from completely enemy-controlled territory into completely enemy-controlled territory. The military access rule here is you can always move units into areas with at least one province whose lawful owner or controller is either friendly or your enemy. I don't see anything else that prevents movement here. We look at the general. There's nothing about having to maintain a supply line, of course, but they wouldn't even have to express it that way. They could express it in a way of, if you're in an area that only contains, that doesn't contain any friendly territory, you can't move into another area that doesn't contain any friendly territory. That maintains a sort of World War I-ish feel, which is absolutely appropriate when you get into the 18th century, even the very early 18th century, late 17th, where the fortification systems were just so impressive that you had a very much of a World War I feel to the wars. Not to the battles, but in terms of like not being able to push forward. And that's handled very nicely in some other games. It's handled nicely in the original EU. The problem is the more fluid warfare that did happen early on is less well represented. What really is necessary is the kind of craziness that La Grande Guerre provides, where, hey, you're in one technology zone, okay, the rules change when you change between technology zones. That doesn't really happen in the old EU, and that may be a flaw in the system. I prefer that it handles those wars that I'm most familiar with well, which are kind of the later ones. So, yeah, But I do have to admit that maintaining rigid supply lines, worrying about lines of fortification that prevent you from operating deep within enemy territory, those were more absolute than, hey, I can go wander around in enemy territory. It would be easy to make some kind of rule in the old EU that just fixates it to the technology levels. The game is so heavy on rules already, though, and that you'd probably forget. I don't know. He draws a trade card with pirates. Let me get this back. I was going to build my navy, but to build up my army and navy, I need a lot of money. So I decided to do a trade cube. It's not working out that well because it's Bordeaux, which is under pirates. That's the only one that I have that's effective for me at all. Here are my choices. I could take $2. Or Bordeaux has the French in it, and they actually count up getting everything here. Bordeaux, Poitou, Limousin, and Bourbon. And that would give them 4, 5, 6, 7 up to here. Pirates drop me down. That would give the French $5. Do I want to give the French $5? Not terribly. But I would be at 1, 2, 3, which puts me here, drop down for the pirates $3. So I could get an extra buck that I actually really need by giving the French 5 extra bucks that they don't really need, but they're on my side in this war. It might help them. I don't know. I'm going to go for this. It just seems better, but Yeah, I can definitely see going the other way and just grabbing my $2. Either way, it's kind of a bad draw for the Spaniards. I was hoping to get something else. If I was established over in North America, there was a North America card, which probably would have been okay. Nah. No, I wouldn't have been able to play it anyway. And the only other one that was anywhere nearby is the English Channel, which I guess I could set up so that I get to here, but that doesn't get me back to my capital, so I don't get the trade. That's a little weird, because honestly, the Netherlands territories, the trade with the Netherlands was incredibly valuable. Here's something EU gets kind of wrong. They set you up with this territory under Spain at the beginning in 1492. It's not, but, and the Spanish Road and whatnot. It should be Austrian, and it's one of the reasons why I got kind of confused. Is when games portray things incorrectly. The original EU portrayed that as Spanish territory, I believe, to begin with, which it doesn't become until Charles V ascends the throne. Anyway, the 7th has done such a bad job. I'm going to replace him. I'm going to do the Act of Supremacy card. I'm really torn on this because I have a significant monetary issue here where... Now, what's kind of fucked up here is Henry VIII came to rule and used his military capability only in the period before the... Well, he used his military activity only in the period before the Act of Supremacy took place. The Act of Supremacy was triggered in part because Henry VIII spent so much fucking money, both on the wars and on his lavish estates and whatnot, that one of the driving features was the fact that he could seize all that money. It's working out that way in a weird sort of way with Henry VII being the king during that period, but of course then I don't get the bonus military capability that Henry VIII has, although I really kind of disagree that he'd be that great a military commander. The record just doesn't show him as that good. So I got the choice to pile a whole bunch of money in exchange for 2 stability. Oh, my kingdom is going to be a mess if I do that. As well, I would get, I would lose cubes that I've been working so hard to get. Now, I could take 2 of them from over here and maybe 1 from Scotland, which is still Catholic, because those feel less aligned to my current choices. That way I wouldn't be losing my cubes over here. There's no Protestants anywhere. The Reformation isn't happening. It's starting in England. This feels all wrong to me. We'll see what cards come up, but I was expecting Reformation style cards to start showing up in Era 2. Let's look at how Era 2 is supposed to start. So here we are, it starts at the beginning of Age 2. This means this map situation will be very different. 2 of the major powers, France and Castile, have consolidated their power bases. This starts at the beginning of Era 2. We should be seeing 15, 17, religion. No, there's no religious things. I don't know what's going to trigger this, but so far I'm not seeing anything. Now, I almost want to peek through the events and see, geez, did I miss something? I'm going to pick through the unused events and see if there's a card that I think should be in play that isn't. I did that is I don't remember there being a Protestantism card in the deck that I created. And I wasn't looking all that carefully, but there certainly isn't anything in the remainder. So it's got to be there, and it's got to be in the first set of events. But yeah, we're going to have the leading light of Protestantism, I believe, be the English. That stability loss is huge, but I don't particularly want these other things. The only thing that I kind of want is the diplomatic cube. I thought about doing it for that, but I think I can give up cubes elsewhere. The stability loss is going to hurt like hell, but I need the money more. Okay, so we have an administrative power gain that I forgot about that came in from it. 3 cubes from that. Yeah, we got this. This is going to hurt, but that administrative power, it's only going to cost me 2 to upgrade my stability 1 more level. However, I got a huge religious problem. All my English territories are Catholic. But that may change by the end of the turn. We hope. Modifying areas, converting, that's only 2 plus 3D. But the biggie, look at all this money. That is just sweet. Do I want to pay off my loans? That would be 18 bucks. Yeah, I think so. That kind of stability hit, though. I'm wondering what bankruptcy would have cost me. Although I wasn't close to bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is 21. Of course, I got prestige out of this, and I'm pretty sure I would lose prestige on bankruptcy. If you have 5 or more and cannot pay a mandatory cost, the realm goes bankrupt. Lose 3 stability, no biggie. Lose 5 prestige, ouch. Yeah, we would not want to do that. So this was a much better solution than, driving into bankruptcy and over to the Austrians. By the way, things are more disjointed than they would be otherwise, because in between player turns, I run downstairs and kick off a fight in my addiction. There are some advantages to that. One, I'm doing something in between, and that helps me focus on what I'm doing to some extent. I know it doesn't seem reasonable, but it means that I actually probably play more. And I'm also getting, a run up and down the stairs, which can't be bad for me. Of course, my socks make me slip and fall and I break my neck, but overall that would probably be a plus 2. I forgot to draw my card. Threw the money down. Here we go, the Reformation. Place Protestant tokens in 2 Catholic areas in the HRE that are not adjacent to C zones, marked with the cross. Okay. Yeah, I remember this. And that contain no provinces owned by the Emperor. Switzerland and Saxony must be chosen if eligible. Pick English, French, Scottish, or Danish areas instead if there are no more eligible HRE areas. There's a reason for the Austrians to try to take their Swiss territory back. Switzerland and Saxony. Saxony would be the 2, okay. All HRE areas with diverse faiths turned Protestant. I don't know, is there one? Yeah, of course, there's Bohemia, right? Bohemia should be diverse faiths. I'm looking for them. Right there, okay. And that makes absolute sense, so if you don't deal with that. Oh boy. Well, that's something we'd like to not have happen. Maybe nobody will pick it. Oh. All right, well, we're on the Austrians right now, and they were actually considering, hey, as a delaying action, do we want to take one of the events? Surprisingly, I made bad choice with the Austrians. I fired off the reform action here. Drew a couple of military cards. The hope being, hey, maybe I'll get a better general. But I have an okay general. Brody is definitely better than that famous Imperial commander Abdullah. I don't think that I want to play a general, though. So let's look at the different cards. Siege Assault could be really useful, right? But I don't have a huge army, and I can't use these. Those only count in battles. They don't count in sieges. So much as I would like to, you know, conquer the Burgundy region from the French. Oh, and I bet you these don't count to my total, my peace value either. I got to check that. Not necessarily right now. Tactical retreat allows you to regain a unit lost as casualty in the battleground and retreat to an adjacent non-hostile sport without suffering an additional. And if you take a casualty, you can remove it. So I'm going to take that one. Although, generally the siege one would be better. And I actually have enough money that I could have raised a bigger army. I just didn't do it. I rushed in there because I have this big army for battles. I could raise forces here, but not much. I can only get like 1 unit in there, and that's not worth wasting a cube for. So I'm kind of in a crappy position in terms of activating things. This was a real action, so the thingy shifts. I really don't want that Reformation to happen all over me. So Poland is set up so that they could conceivably subjugate Warsaw, but I don't have a cube there. I would need 1 cube there to do this. To get that cube, now, I can reorganize and move 1 cube here. I'm going to need to do that to play the card. To get that cube, there's a diplomacy cube sitting here on the Italian wars. So we're going to trigger that. A couple of bucks, we don't care about that. We shift over. This is not good. All right. We gain a military cube for this. That doesn't help us because we've got to move a military cube to do, we've got to already move a military cube. So we're going to ease tensions. Castile loses a prestige but gets 2 cubes in one of the areas, and we get a diplomacy cube. Not a great solution, but it costs Castile. We go over here, and they're going to get 2 cubes somewhere in the Italian areas. We'll take them. They can be put back. They can be reused, always. Castile gains, no. Castile loses this, but gains 2 cubes in either Lombardy, Central Italy, Venice, Naples, or Sicily. I think they get to choose. Cubes here would help us absorb this, but that's just so many cubes. That's going to get us in a lot of trouble. And right now we're in the Italian wars, which means we got no cards. We could maybe make an alliance if I can find the right thing. We could forge an alliance, which would only take some diplomacy. There's no requirement, is there? Cost the target, both PR must be, requires 2 cubes in the target area. So, Central Italy, is that in here? Central Italy is in here, but it is not part of the power play for the Italian wars. But it should be. Why did I not do that? I knew that sounded a little weird. All right. Let's put that there. I wonder if, I don't know. Okay. We can marry the Pope. I don't know about that, man. That sounds unlikely. 12 and 32. Guessing 32 will have it, but it's not always the case. Eligible partners. Maybe married. You may marry your own vassals. You can marry the Pope. Okay. I mean, it makes sense. Many popes weren't married, but they had relatives who were married. Not many popes were married. However, I think I would rather be over here in Florence. And now we get the choice of Charles V, who should be pretty damn good. Ferdinand, who's not bad at all, but he's going to die. Of course, Charles is a plus. We got a plus sitting here, so we're going to be just as bad. Charles had better be a decent military commander. He is. Historically, he wasn't, you know, all that great on his own, but he came with good generals, essentially, and he was okay on his own as well. That triggers some money. And the second to last card, Suleiman the Magnificent. This is, yeah, he's going to be good. The Great Legion reform. Ottomans gain prestige to administrative and can remove some unrest. You gain a peace. Commander of the Faithful. Ottomans gain a military and a claim in Hejaz, Iraq, or Hungarian plain. You must declare war on the realm with which this is valid for. And you gain 2, the player who plays this gains 2 military. Chances are the Turks are going to take this. It goes against their plans, though. Their plans were a war with Venice. And where's Hejaz? I want to say it's over here. Iraq, Kurdistan, Transcaucasia, Syria, Palestine. Oh, no, it's going to be over here. Right? Yeah. Well, that's quite far away. Iraq would be definitely a possibility. The Hungarians are probably the historical, but I'm really not set up. I could. But at this point in the world, I think the Italian wars are the more important thing. So I'm probably going to go with the legal reform, which, you know, I got plenty of military cubes to prosecute my war, so it doesn't really hurt me to gain these additional things. And we moved the Poles, we paid the things, we move this over, and we do the Turks. We do that, sticking to their plan for going after Venice. And drop some money. It's the last card. The inheritance of Mazovia. Poland inherits Mazovia. Any Polish small town on Warsaw develops into a large city. If there's a Polish vassal here, it becomes a Polish small town. This would really help us if we can trigger this. Unfortunately, we will not have the option. We already triggered one to get us into the position here. This is why knowing these is of great value. But honestly, I would rather not know the specifics of them and rather have sort of an idea of history and expectations of what's going to happen, like the Protestant Revolution. It may not happen, though, right? It depends on whether players choose it. So this would be great if somebody picks it, but chances are nobody will. Mazovian independence, replace any Polish town or vassal with a Polish truce token instead. Poland gains a claim in the area, and you gain a diplomacy. So if somebody wanted to do this, they could cause Poland some harm. Poland's doing pretty poorly. Nobody really cares. Poland's doing really poorly. So there are 2 powers left, France and Austria. Austria is not going to pick the Reformation spreads. That's for sure. They don't want it. Revolts in the Low Country hurts Spain. That's, you know, the top country in the game. They probably will pick that, although France may pick it instead. However, France is at war with Austria and may want to pick the Reformation. One of these events doesn't happen, and no one's got any interest in the Polish event unless they want either an administrative or a peace cube. This is the only one that gives cubes. The other two just hurt people. So the question there is, you know, is it worth hurting Austria? Because somebody's going to pick the revolt in the Low Country. I think that goes without saying. But is it worth hurting Austria enough? And France will probably say yes, it is, for the simple fact that they can force Austria into some sort of peace conditions by making Austria's situation so untenable. That's all the way around. I think this is a good time to stop, although my battery situation is kind of weird, but the more I run, the weirder it gets. All right. You'll notice, I mean, I'm bad enough at optimizing my play, right? Actually, I think I'll load this up. I'm bad enough at optimizing my play that, you know, I make lots of mistakes anyway. But it is heightened, my incompetence, by the fact that I do take breaks and whatnot and don't remember necessarily what I was planning. So I end up with, you know, very suboptimal play throughout the course of the game. And that it really shows. Now, with Poland, obviously, I was misinterpreting a rule, but, or missed the fact that it was squirreled away in the beginning of the rule book, and then other places kind of implied that it wasn't, that I wasn't able to do that, at least in my twisted little mind. All right. Things are moving along kind of interesting, though. You know, we got the Reformation starting in England. The Lollards, man. It's not. It's Henry. Henry's decided, hey, you know, Pope don't matter. So, yeah, but this should be intriguing. This should be intriguing. We've got Austria and France at war, Spain about ready to join in, Turkey about ready to start a war. A lot is happening. The Poles cursing themselves because, yeah, we're going to get to we're going to get to take Warsaw, but we're not going to get that event triggered. And, you know, if we knew that event was there, we wouldn't have made those machinations, right? That's why, to me, not knowing the specifics of the events is actually really important. Now, would it make sense to know them? This probably involves a royal marriage or some such, right? It's an inheritance. But it may actually not. And such things are never guaranteed, right? So, I'm kind of on the, yeah, that's okay then. You know, it's okay that I had to choose something different. If these had come out in a different order, if I had had enough cubes to operate, things would have gone differently. But yeah, Poland is not in as good a shape as they would like to be. That's for sure.